Okay, well, this is the euro dollar again, and we had this huge sell-off here. But before it really sold off, it went up here and did a big lunge up here. So this is kind of crazy, and this is another reason why really a lot of this stuff that like I don't think there's a robot, any robot that'll capture this wonderful sell up here other than placing a pending up here to sell that internal bottom on the half hour. Then we come through the floor here and we attack this stop here. We chop it, we come back up, and this thing just kept on. I'm long right now, but on this, it just kept on in those wicks there. Mind you, all the 4 hour and 1 hour breakout guys were getting trapped there. That's why I detest the stop entry. Because the constant grabbing this breakout and pull it back, and look at this this morning, almost a breakout, and then all the way for a new low, right? Now that's not typically what people would expect, and all the trend traders would be maybe selling here, saying, well, it's in a downtrend, so I'm going to sell that. Let me get this thing to the right. They'd be saying, of course, queuing up off of this this here, right? So that's the rollover. This is the insane wedge where the market started to accelerate down there, and that became the crossover, one of the crossover buy points there. But it's that simple. Just watching this kicklighter guy from Daily FX supposedly scalping, and he didn't do one trade. It was a live webinar. He didn't do one trade, and he was going back on this thing, and he was doing the Fibonacci and all this nonsense that people have developed because they're, and I guess it's just they're trying to save themselves from the risk of trading, right? I mean, if you put enough stuff on your screen and you do all this analyzation and you do this and that and you've done your homework and blah blah blah, I'm long here and I'm going to sell up here. It's that simple. I can't imagine any other way to approach it. It's buy low, sell high, buy low. If you overthink this stuff, you're going to come up with so many reasons, and then you're going to have these guys that, there's a news report. Hey, what's going on in Greece? It doesn't matter what's going on in Greece. It never matters. In fact, if you look at this chart here, just go to the daily. Like, how does Greece... Can you see Greece on the chart there? I don't know. I just see the market consolidating for a huge up move, and then people say, "Oh yeah, it's because they got a deal in Greece." It doesn't matter. It's completely immaterial, as the attorneys would say when you're in court. Well, that's immaterial. You're leading the witness. Yeah, you're leading the witness when you start to overthink this stuff and the moving averages and all that garbage. I mean, the 100-day moving average, really? I mean, you really think that matters? No, what matters is you broke this trend line. Okay, the sellers came in there, boom. But guess what? It's a buy because we ricocheted off this. This is the internal support. I guess it's hard to see with all these orders in here. Let me just turn off all these orders. So just go for no color there. And I mean, it just doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't matter. Certainly this is the buy zone. In fact, look at this. Somebody had a stop down here, right? Oh, gee, they got stopped out. They told me, in fact, that guy told me, that Stapleton guy said, put your stop just up there. Yeah, look how it worked out for his Canadian dollar, right? Which keeps going up. And look at the Canadian dollar. Come on, people. Daily Canadian dollar, top, became a bottom. But these guys got all their fib tools out. They're like this. This is how these guys approach the market. You could gag a maggot with this stupidity. Actually, this one I made just a linear grid. This is actually better. I just renamed everything. Take profit. Here, let me go to maybe got a fib tool in here that I haven't rewritten somehow. Okay, here's your classic fib tool, right? I'm going to put that on there. And these guys, they put on the wicks. I'm like, you know what? This thing on your screen, if you've got the time to play around with these fib tools, you shouldn't even be playing with it. What you should be doing is worrying about which time frame you want to trade, worrying about how much you're risking, which time frame, how much you're risking, and writing trade plans and thinking about, oh, let me draw what the market's doing. And the fib tool is just never going to fit. It's never going to fit properly. Okay, we've got this congestion zone here. This is itching to break through these wicks. That's all that matters. And it really, I mean, if you were to check the, and really even the news, come on. I mean, who cares? I mean, yeah, maybe 8:30, right? But if you're right about how the market behaves and what the structure levels, how it's going to behave at those points, then it's immaterial. And hemming and hawing about, well, Greece is going to get bailed out. What does it mean for the euro? Well, my God, if you approach the market with that in your brain, you're already got a bias. You've already got distortions. You've already got this kind of primed yourself for situations that who knows, who cares, right? You really worried about, like, am I making money on this trade? Like, am I getting stopped out? Like, am I in too heavy? Should I wait for it to come back to here to get in? So on the 4 hour, the question is, should I put a buy limit here? Should I put a sell limit here? Well, of course, right? And to double check with stuff, to come up with, should you put a buy limit there? Of course, but you didn't get filled. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, the effort of putting it there, I guess, would be your only loss, right? You put an order there, and if you're doing single drops, you put an order there, you put an order there, no fill, right? And it's just the time it takes to put these in. But if you have it on here, these wicks, right? If you have your order where everybody's got their stop, you just made like 60 pips, right? In 4 hours. In 4 hours, you made that many pips, right? So now we're going to go cutting north here. Well, obviously on the 1 hour, you're going to want to take profits here or sell for a pullback into what used to be the resistance, which is this double top. This bottom became a double top. That's the 1 period moving average exponential. This is not brain surgery, man. You don't need it. Look at double top became a bottom failure. Now, when the market does get quiet, yeah, you could put stops in there, or you could just place, I have some single drops here. So I could say, okay, well, I can just, I would sell up here, right? I would sell right there. Obviously, right? I would sell up here. Now, we don't know when it's going to get there, right? It could zoom up there, or it could just be a long ride up there. Okay, I'm ready to take profits right now. But because we're up against resistance, right? So it's always that kind of debatable zone. But here's the big, where the floor dropped out here on the half hour. Right here, right? Double bottom. This is a big crucial price. What, 110.46.4. Yeah, this is just really not that complicated. I can't, it's so amazing to see. And the candlesticks, forget about it. They suck. You know why they suck? Because there's an open and a close on a candle. Why is there an open? Who cares about the open of the candle? The previous close is all you care about. I mean, really, you've got an opening to the candle, so you got to close, and then what? 1 second later, you've got a new piece of data. You don't need that. All you care about is the close. You could run opens here, right? You could plot this on open. But right here, I'm ready to get out of this damn trade. But I'm looking for this, and all this up and down this, you can see that is the accumulation. It found liquidity, and then zoom up. It breaks through this. Now here's your classic head. That becomes this is the shoulder, that's the head, right? Where's the other shoulder? Well, it's probably at an angle, right? Or it's just subtle, it's that little thing there. Doesn't matter, because really what it is, what it was. Okay, this is definitely the buy zone, And yeah, you might get stopped out. Another thing is that it's better to spend time placing multiple orders than it is to sit there with the with these reading the news headlines and all this garbage. I just don't know how people do it, right? How do they have the time for all that? But yeah, this thing is definitely gonna trying to retrace off of this plunge here. But now we're coming right up on this, that pivot there. So if this is the daily world, right, it doesn't mean that, in other words, you can buy and sell this market. There's no such thing as like, well, the trend. Yeah, really? The trend, huh? Look at this wick here. What about this? What's the trend there? It's ridiculous to think in terms of direction and trend. Some guy in a chat room said the other day, if I knew where this market was going, I'm like, if you know where any market's going, please call and let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So yeah, we're long this thing, and I'm just going to shotgun this trade and just sell up in here like a blind man. But yeah, it's the same story, different day, right? And it's trading is so simple that I think that's what befuddles people. It's really about the risk management of it all. When the market's plunging, and if you buy too much and your stop's too wide, you're just going to blow up the account or you're going to lose money, right? So when the market's coming down like that, look at that, only bounced about 10 pips and they just keep on tanking, right? So unless you have a sell, which I didn't have any sells running, but if you had sells running on stops or limits or just tight, this drift down here, you could have made money, but this was the quick and dirty money. The slam up to that climax moment and then the rip back. And it's kind of tough because people don't, like this does not work into your MACD too well. Neither does this plunge down here. It just doesn't fit the normal, people have a normal expectation of, say they've looked at, and if I put a moving average system on here, which I guess so, like if I just came up here, you can just see how ridiculous it is if I insert a moving average. So I'm going to say, give me a trend, and oh, great, this platform screwed up now. Yeah, it's one bug in MetaTrader right here. Look at, if you go to insert indicators and you choose trend and you choose moving average, it says money flow index, so you know that you got to reboot the platform. I don't know how they screwed that up, but they did. So yeah, for instance here, okay, here's the euro dollar. If you're on the so here's the half hour, and here's the moving average when I was doing the moving average crossover system. But let me throw up a moving average here and just see how ridiculous. I mean, it cracks me up, like that 20 EMA, it's just too hilarious. Come on, really? I mean, people are using this stuff and they're just losing all day long. And I mean, they're really taught by so-called experts and blah blah blah. I mean, it's just, you just can't even believe it. Like here, I'll put up like an 8-period moving average, right? Make this one yeller, make it big yellow. Oh wow, look, I should stay short there. Yeah, but really, what about this? Oof. Oh, but I got a good entry there. Why don't you buy down here? So obviously where you want to get in is where they're getting stopped out. Buy limits down here, sell limits up here, on the edge, on the very edge. That's where you want to trade, on the edge. So the idea that it's going to be some it just doesn't work like that. I'm getting out here, right? So I'm getting out of my winners here because that ride's over as far as I'm concerned for the moment, and we'll revisit that later. But because to me, the market makers have already chopped this top here. Like, they've already grabbed these guys and rip it back, and sure, it might follow through breakout, but typically in Forex, they're all fake outs. There's not a lot of good breakouts as far as I'm concerned. Besides, you're up against this thing here. You know, you're up against this major, and we come off that bottom pretty good, and we've still got the Greek news to come out. You know, this Greek news, I'm just sick and tired of hearing about this Greece. You know, people need something to chew on, though, right? So, obviously, you know, it's grist from the mill, as they say, and that's all you can really say about it, because in the end, it's just completely, like, who cares, right? So I'll buy if they come back down. And I got these, I got some of these old tickets because I got this new broker here I'm running. Because my other broker is locked out. You know, you just can't believe the amount of fraud lockouts I get. It's getting so bad now that you can't even make a move on your own fucking account without some dumb fucking robot blocking me out of my account. Oh, it's fraud. Yeah, it's me. Hello. Yeah, that's fraud. That fraud is me, buddy. Like, here's a half hour sell. That's my news script there. So we spike up there, I'm selling all the way up there. Anyways, damn, I just had it with these people. There's this fraud. We're protecting you. And then you call the fraud department, and I mean, last time I called the fraud department, the guy said, "Can you tell me your last deposits?" And I started to rattle him off, and apparently I blew his whole script because he's like, "Well, I'm supposed to ask you, and then you're supposed to answer." I'm like, can I just get like a retina? Can I just rip out my eyeball and you can scan my retina? I'm tired of it. Like, now they want to SMS message me on my phone. Make sure it's really you. No, it's an alien from Alpha Centauri. Come on, give me a break on this stuff with the fraud department. You know, I got your fraud department right here, buddy. It's you can't make a move. You can't make a move. What the hell was that? It's not supposed to make that sound. It's not supposed to do that. Okay, now it's going to go up. I'm going to sell if it goes up. And seriously, why is it doing that? Okay. So if it goes up, I'm selling, and here was where they just kept on going after that. That's the fake breakout. So here comes the follow through, and I'll sell up into this. This is here's the half hour, and it, you know, wouldn't you know it, it's retracing. So this is the redistribution phase here, but this is a key level. And what else do you need? Do you really need to break out a fib tool? And then it cracks me up. The fib tool guys will break it out and they'll go, "Hey, it comes right back to where the support is." I'm like, yeah. So more redundancy, more nonsense, just like the candles, that everybody's got a candle chart, everybody's got their data like this. They're like, yeah, you should trade market. I'm like, how can you even see what you're gonna do there? Like, this is how a guy's got his chart, right? And this kicklighter guy, daily FX. I mean, we're strategists in the back room. What we do is we use the same indicators everybody else uses. And he's got RSI. He's got trading one position trades, really? And then he's like, well, you know, it's a good thing. Yeah, glad you asked that question. But never do you see the guy say something like, well, you know what, the market makers are kicking your ass all day long. How do you beat them? How do you beat the supposed stop hunt? How do you beat that, right? He never says, well, you know, like, you know what they're going to do is, if they take it up here, they're probably going to grab all those bulls and rip it back. Never hear about it. Just clodheads with MAC. At least I don't see people using MACD anymore, right? It's Forex, for God's sakes. It's not the stock market or corn that's just churning away in a nice smooth trend. There's no smooth trends in Forex. It's literally a market maker's world. It's nothing but wicked wicks. And look at this. Falls out of bed. It's the second week we've fallen out of bed on this euro. And so what's next? Another thing you can do is if you don't want to, if you want to try to time this market out a little bit better and give yourself a little more organization. Okay, let's put this channel in here, right? And then we can build the other direction, right? The up story. This is the up, the breadth of the market on the way up, and copy that out to here, right? And then let's look for the cycle, the rate at, every time this thing does a swing. How long does that take? So from swing high to swing low, and get an idea of what we can expect here. So out of the future, we can say, okay, we're probably at a swing high now. Well, the next swing low possibly there. This way we can draw this trend line, and we can speculate and get a kind of a degree of, maybe we want to get in here so we can see the grid in time and the grid in price. If we're going to walk up the stairway, which I'm a big fan of this stairway walk, just the 1 hour, and then build an envelope too. So if you come over here and copy that over, so you have the inside, this top, bottom, this is the inside tine of that. Well, where do you expect that to, how long do you expect that to take? And this is the daily. So the end of the day is coming here. Let's give ourselves another window of time and price of possible turning point. Because I'm basing this angle off of this. So if I copy that, that's going to give me the, you know, and then if I go to the future, okay, so we could come back into this top by the next swing here. Probably maybe we're going to retest down here, so I can see, well, I'm going to think about buying this. I don't need any Fibonacci. I've got this back here. I've got that. I got possible revisit that price because there's probably orders sitting there to get filled, and either limits or stops, and that's where the so selling up into this, and that's the reason why I kind of just got out of that for the moment, because I can always get back in. The 15-minute, so here's the rearview mirror timing, and then if I zoom this out one level, so there's the high-res view of that. Yeah, I mean, coming back to this, you don't need Fibonacci to see this wick was the place to get in. When they ripped that back into there, you kind of almost had to move it up a little bit, but yeah, you wouldn't have got filled on that actually. But getting in at the extreme edge when everybody's scared out of their mind, buying here, yeah, you got stopped out, right? But you bought here, you made it to there. Then you bought here again and you made it to there. So you made it all back and then some. And if you're looking out here to see that point there, that's the big deal. So here I want to get in on the pullback to this starting gate, and do that on this one here too. I'm going to get in back where it all started, and then maybe it's going to come in deeper, so I'm going to put in deeper orders just in case. That looks like it's going up now, but that's alright because I'm going to sell on the top. I gotta get rid of this broker, but it just takes forever to throw these orders in here. It just take like a second. Alright, so that's my entry here, right at that where we left the station, and it's that simple. It's not about, you know, I mean, I could break out RSI and all that stuff. I could do all that, but you know, I noticed that it's very fatiguing, and then all of a sudden you're relying on that and you're expecting that to fit your criteria, and if you don't get that, you don't take the trade. And it really comes down to just taking a lot of trades, and some of them maybe not work out, but if you're doing 80 trades and you have 60 winners, I think you're doing pretty damn good, right? But yeah, it's just I just never seen such I guess when you're dealing with money, you know, this is like, but you never see this. Maybe you do. I mean, if you're playing guitar and you want to be a rock star, right? Is there like 10 tips to be a rock star? Okay, well, let's see. Now you're gonna want. I mean, you don't see this kind of checklist. And you don't see this kind of insanity and stupidity that you do see in these financial markets with people that are whipping out their Gartleys and their you name it. And when it really comes down to, wow, I mean, do I have the patience to trade the daily chart, or should I switch to, well, the daily you could still scalp off these wicks, but do I really want to trade the 5-minute chart? And if I'm a 5-minute trader, and just go ahead and do it, right? You can't really sit there and listen to these bozos that are gonna, like, you're gonna send a newsletter and it's like, are you gonna fill your head with that and you check that in the morning? I mean, nobody can babysit you through these things. I mean, it really comes down to, like, can you handle risk? And if you can handle risk, you're in. Then it's just a matter of, like, okay, can you fine tune? Can you get better? Can you get more patience? Can you anticipate? And a lot of this anticipating the fact that, yeah, they're probably going to ram it to the edge, right? In other words, probably going to bid it down. So either you're going to, if you're not going to ride it down there, you can always get it around at the turns, at the turnbuckle. You can always get around where let's come back from Chicago, and got married one day in Chicago, and I'm coming back home, and they once they got me on the train, and they were doing 40 miles an hour. We're about 5 miles out of Chicago, and they come on the PA and they said, "Yep, the Canadian Rail just went on strike." Why don't you tell that before I got on the train, right? Then the conductor, this Nazi walking up and down the aisle, I said, well, he says, we're going to have to turn around in this one town. And I said, well, why can't we just, he goes, do you know how much it costs for track? Do you know how much it costs to build like a loop? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, wow, but you're going to tell me, right? And probably smack me. And, you know, so there is a loop, right? And there is a turnaround point. And luckily in Forex, you don't have to buy the track, apparently. But yeah, I mean, it's just like it's just so simple. And this idea that there's a magic pivot, or there's just the market, and there's just nothing. It's just nothing. It's boring. It is just, there's no mystic thing. And I was at a seminar. I drove all the way to the other side of town one day, and there's this guy, and he did a webinar over the TV that was in the room, and the guy was into Lucas numbers and astrology. So the planets are aligning. Yeah, I mean, I could say, well, look at this. This is a full moon up here. I can't even believe the stuff people pile onto these markets. You know, what's next, right? Well, I'm using tea leaves actually to scalp. It's just unbelievable. You can't even believe this stuff. You kind of just got to crack up, right? If you don't laugh, you cry, whatever. So anyways, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And no, it's just, you know, if you like here, if I wanted to get on this, I would go to the 5-minute and go, oh, there's a buy, right? We pulled back, but, you know, I don't know. Maybe wait for it to come back. Here's the top becoming a bottom, but 5 minutes, you know, maybe we have to wait to come back here. Maybe we have to stop all these guys out, come ripping back like we did this morning. We came ripping back all the way down, plunged through. In other words, since we couldn't get the party started here, look at this sell-off. That happened in 1 hour. Like, it was like 1.5 hours, right? That's a 30-minute chart. And it's probably getting divergence on something, because we had 3 touches and we failed to swing down there. But you just can't overthink this stuff, you know. The overthinking that goes into these markets is more fascinating than even the markets. Yeah, the markets are definitely fascinating, how hard they can move in one direction. But boy, to see these guys try to make sense of it is most adorable thing in the world, and it doesn't get any better than some intellectual bozo, so-called intellectuals. I mean, they're pseudo-intellectuals, let's face it. And I love it when they call themselves the chief currency strategist. I'm like, damn, man. Where's the chief currency traders, right? And then why does everybody have a damn website, blog, or whatever with all their nonsense on there, all these cliches? My God, you could just die. And then when you get to their webpage, it's like visually disturbing. Can't we get some bling on these sites so it looks a little bit like you just got to like a rock star site? Can't we get like the colors and the fonts kind of buttered up? Does it have to be this dry garbage? And then it's like everybody's rehashing the same story. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not cut out for the world of media. But, you know, there's probably some trader just making piles of money on his own, typically. And it's a lonely sport. That's why I do these videos, I guess, because people tune in to listen to me bitch. But, you know, I had it. You know, I've had it with all this, like, oh, yeah, well, I made a prediction. I'm like, yeah, but come on, man. I mean, it's not about, and really, you know, your ego is the worst enemy, right? I mean, it's not really the risk. It's so much. In other words, if you get stopped out and you just take a loss of like $1 or $100 or whatever, you know, it's really about, oh, I was wrong about the direction of that, man. I got to go back and I got to study more and I got to. No, I don't think so. I think you just got to be thinking, now let me just put my orders down and almost. Well, I'd say it's counterintuitive, right? Most of the stuff. People are trying to approach the market with a rational mind, right? I'm not saying you should be insane, but you kind of have to be a little nuts, right? You can't just sit there and go with all this conventional wisdom, all this garbage where people are doing all the same stupid things, or they're passing around the same stupid ideas, and you just never. I go to chat rooms. I go to this this LAR room yesterday. Some guy. I'm like, really? What? I'm like, we have not moved past that. It's almost like we're just not evolving, I guess, right? The whole trading community. You don't see where's the guy that stands up and says, "Yeah, I'm using a dartboard. I'm making so much money. Yeah, I got a tight stop, right?" Anyways, yeah, the euro. So yeah, the euro's it's you know, where is it going in the end? Well, I think it's going up, but it's also going down. Like, look at this move here. This is the daily. Look at this climax here. Wow. But yeah, I mean, to me, I don't care where it's going. But in the end, just looking at the monthly, and I don't, like I said, I don't have the patience for sitting in a monthly trade, but wow, look at that. And then some other bozo that's trying to sell silver and gold, he's like, look at this, man, we're going down to like, really? You think we're gonna keep going down? Okay. Yeah, like Stapleton, you know, well, we're selling that. You know, we studied hard on this stuff. We know our stuff. We're selling up there in that Canadian dollar. I'm like, good luck, buddy. Look at this thing just cutting through. Now they're chasing down this bozo stop. He sold here. If he didn't scalp that for the 50 pips he could get out of it. It wasn't in his trade plan, though. You know where Stapleton's exit was on this trade, and I'm not even kidding. He was going to sell here. He's like, well, it's going to come back to here. Really? And that's another thing. These people have outlandish targets. Most of the stuff's a scalp, if you're lucky, right? But the idea that it's going to come here and it's going to come back here because my Gartley says so, good luck with that, right? Just saying.